Welcome to SNY Point Blank TV. This is Chris Botta, joined by Billy Jaffe of MSG Network, the NHL Network, Boston Bruins telecast, some Dallas Stars, little bit of everything, some radio in Canada. He does it all. Billy, how are you?
I'm great. And you know what? Can I announce this on your show? It's not that big of a deal. I'm proud to announce I'm adding ESPN to it. I got picked up to do some college hockey NCAA regional next weekend. So
that's great. That's fun. That's fun for you to do too, right?
Yeah. I mean, besides getting to actually do the games, I love being able to do NCAA stuff. You know, I've had history doing a lot of college, having played at Michigan, and then just doing a bunch of college hockey games over the years. So it's not like it's a big surprise or anything. I just haven't said much because I've been busy doing other stuff. But yeah, next weekend the Worcester, as they say, Worcester region for the NCAAs.
I'm actually hoping to go with some of my kids to some of the regionals here, so hopefully I'll catch up with you. We're talking Islanders here, of course. You know, they had this pratfall in November, but the bottom line is they could have been in this race for eighth, but they lost a whole block of games, and in some cases really poor fashion. This is our season recap with me and you, but I want to know, in your eyes, what went wrong in these last 3 weeks.
Well, I mean, it's a combination of things. I really wish I had a better answer for you, Bob. Saying it was one thing. It was just a combination of, you're playing guys that haven't been through this kind of run yet. Really, they haven't been. I mean, this isn't much different than where the team is all said and done that we saw last year. I mean, they're almost in the exact same spot, and yet. You have to be mentally strong at the end of a game. They can't put games away, obviously. We've all seen that with them for the last 3 games. Goaltending hasn't been as good. I'm not going to, Nabokov has been, he was great for a while, and then he's kind of tapered off, and that's where any team starts, the bedrock of any team. But you look at teams that they're playing, been hungrier. You look at some of the penalties they've taken. It's not any one thing. I just think what it comes down to is this. Mental fortitude when you get into this time of year, and so you make the right decisions with the puck. You make the right decisions on the type of penalties you take. You make the right decisions with regard to what lines you put out there. I mean, everything. It's not any one thing, and I just don't see, when it's all said and done, that it being there just yet. And I'm sure it's very disappointing for people that, the fans that are passionate about the team.
How much of this is coaching? There's been that concern. Their record is the worst in the NHL when leading after 2 periods. Have you seen holes in strategy, use of timeouts, which personally I think could be a little bit overrated, but are there things there that really have raised some flags for you?
No, I mean, every once in a while, perhaps some matchups, but I don't think it's. I really don't think it's coaching. I really don't. When it's all said and done, I mean, I think coaching hasn't been perfect, but I think that they've really done a pretty good job when it's all said and done. I mean, we've seen some improvements in certain areas. With power play and the penalty kills about the same, but for a while the goaltending was not great, so that can crush a penalty kill. And they made some adjustments. I give them credit, and they went on a much better run of penalty kill. It's kind of tapered off again. Maybe once in a while line matchups, I would say would be one area, but otherwise, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I think they've been short players, which has been a continuing problem. Now, I think they thought that they filled those gaps, but those players. In the case of Staios and Pandolfo, I think their efforts have been noble. In the case of Brian Ralston, I know as a friend, probably a little less than noble, or just the fact that it's passed them by at age 39, which is reasonable. I just think they were, they're playing these games. There's Grabner and Okposo and other guys who we can come back to, and Josh Bailey, but they added 5 or 6 veterans who didn't help this year. I kind of think it's as simple as that.
I mean, listen. I don't know about any. There might be other, more grizzled coaches out there. I'm talking the legend, but maybe would get a little more out of this team. Yeah. But in all fairness, I really think the coaching staff has done a very good job when it's all said and done. I mean, you look at the horses or at times lack thereof on this team, and that's it. I mean, listen, I spend a ton of time in Toronto. You know that, right, Chris?
Yeah.
And people are always talking about coaching up there and everything. And then while the coaching, I think Ron Wilson actually lost some interest and got tired of it after a while. That isn't a great team up there. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs to begin with. I didn't think the Islanders were going to make the playoffs, and we can go back to one of your first shows that we did this year, and I said the same thing there, that they'd be on the outside looking in. It's still not a great team when it's all said and done. I agree with you about the older players. They put it out there, they put it on the line, but they're older players who have their better years past them. It's just the fact they have gotten performances, and I know that you put this out there in social media from certain younger guys, the Okposos, the Baileys, etc., that haven't come through, but yet they thought that they were going to. I know they signed them to the longer-term deals in the off season, and they probably got a cap-friendly hit that they felt was great. And I understand at the time there was more of an issue or more of a hope that about the arena getting done, and so they signed it. And teams fall in love with their own players. Right. Perhaps too easily. And it's not just the Islanders, but in this case, since we're talking them, perhaps they did with some of these players.
I never planned on it this way, but it does seem like every time I've had you on, Jeff, I've asked you about Kyle Okposo, a player you know well, and together we've watched, grow up. And I certainly didn't think that it would get to a point where I'd ask you about this. I don't care what the numbers say. I understand he's now in the 30-point range, and he'll probably rack some up in these last 12 points. There's something up with him. I honestly, I don't think this is about hitting a wall in development. Is it an injury? Is it an illness? He does not seem like, it's one thing to not get points. It's another thing. I'm at the Garden the other day, and I'm sitting next to Larry and all the other writers who are fans of him because they see him 5 or 6 times a year over these last couple of years, and he's knocking everybody into the walls, all right? Maybe his hands aren't great. I've said he's a 20-goal, 50-point guy. But he doesn't look like the same player to me this year. Any thoughts? And I know you're not there every day like we both used to be, but any thoughts on what's up with Kyle?
Listen, without really knowing, because not being there every day, this is my take on it. I have no idea if it's an injury or illness, and God willing, I hope it's not. Either one. I think he doesn't really know. I'm guessing he's wondering about his identity. Mm-hmm. Is he a goal scorer? Is he a checker? Is he an 18-minute-a-guy guy? Is he a 15-minute-a-guy player? Is he a banger? He's not a fighter. That's not his role. But if he's not fighting, he's not scoring, he needs to be the guy that they see against the Rangers an awful lot, which is, demolishing some people. I don't know if I've seen that enough out of him. I haven't seen that enough out of him this year. Remember earlier this year, he had a stretch, 3 games where he was a healthy scratch, and there was just kind of some, mystery about it. I think it was about trying to identify, or maybe the team has one vision of what he's going to be, and maybe he's got another vision of what he thinks he is as a player. And when that happens to a young player who's looked upon as being a main role or a main cog in your machine, but yet doesn't come through in his role, or at least the role that he thinks he is, that's confusing. And that's probably also, sometimes you just got to let things go, and that's a maybe hard thing for a person to do. But right now, my take, outsider looking in, is what is Kyle Okposo going to be? I said this on your show. I remember we were doing it earlier this year because I got disconnected from you before the season began. We were talking about Kyle. I said, look, I love him as a third-line guy. That's what I think he is, a third or a 9 or a 6, meaning those two guys. He's not a top-line guy. That was not meant with any disrespect, but he's not a natural goal scorer at the NHL level. He's meant to be a very tough, hard-as-nails type of guy to play against, the kind of guy that you say afterwards, you're like, holy crap, I know I was out there battling against him, and I just haven't seen enough of that this year from him.
We'll close with a tweet from Michael Hodgman, who asks Billy, what needs to happen next season for the Islanders to take this next step and make the playoffs? I think we went over this about 12 months ago as well, but what needs to happen?
It's time now for management to step up and really put this team together the right way. And that means depth. That isn't just guys looking for one-year deals at the end of their career. And it's not looking for guys that are just, they need to look at a team and say, all right, listen, we need to get guys around John Tavares. And not just on his line, but his second and third lines that will take the heat off John Tavares. and allow him to have a little more freedom. It's too easy of a matchup right now for teams against the Islanders. They need to get bigger on the blue line. They need to. They need to get physically bigger on the blue line. That doesn't mean you bring in guys that are just lugs that can't skate. You need to start developing guys that you're getting guys that are 6'1", 6'2", and are more physical. And then you need to get in guys that have won. Look at what's happened with the Florida Panthers. Now, I don't think that the Florida Panthers are the end-all, be-all just yet. And perhaps are even doing better than their GM Dale Talon thought they would. But when you talk to players there, they talk about the experience of what Brian Campbell brings to the room, what Ed Jovanovski does, even what a guy like Michael Samuelson does, who's won, and Thomas Kopetsky, a name that gets often overlooked. But when you talk to the Florida Panthers people, they say, he doesn't score a lot. But in the locker room, he carries the mantle of having won a Stanley Cup, and he's a really good vocal leader. They need that. The Islanders have a lot of great guys on their team. They do. Great guys, good individuals, all that stuff. Some real true warriors and everything, that kind of, hockey parlance, hockey terms. But they need guys that have been through some major battles before, that understand what it takes to win. Management has to do it. If they're not going to spend money, then you're just going to see more of this type of thing next year, where they're going to have spurts of greatness, some spurts of badness, and a lot of in between, and that just doesn't cut it now in the NHL. You can say all you want that you look to get into the playoffs, but when it's all said and done, you got to make a decision of what you're going to be. And the other thing is, they've got to decide, and it's probably not in their court anymore, what are they going to do with Nabokov and P.A. Parento? I mean, especially Nabokov, there's not as much of a market for him as there is a guy like P.A. Parento, but what are they going to do? And I don't blame him for not signing right now. He's got to play it out, right? I mean, see what comes and gets him. I don't think there's as big a market perhaps out there for him, though, as he might think there is. But a guy like P.A. Parento, geez, there's some other teams that will be looking.
He knows he'll have offers on July 1 that are probably more than the Islanders are offering, but he's going to have to decide, can he be happy at only whatever, several $1 million a year playing with John Tavares, or does he want to hit the home run and play for the Montreal Canadiens, for an obvious example?
Yeah, no, I mean, but there's going to be, look, the guy's going to end up with minimum 50, maybe 55 assists. And you're talking, let's just call it 70 points. I mean, he's almost a point-a-game guy. This is the perfect year for him to be a free agent. And he's got to, he's going to respect the process, as he should. So, but those are two big decisions. But management now, they've got to step up. And maybe it's easier said than done. There's still uncertainty about where the team's going to be in a few years, and you still look at it and you say, what's going to happen with the net minding situation? So, management's got to paint that picture where they can get guys that are in their primes instead of past their primes.
And they also need to get a little tougher. You can, it's Hamonic and it's Matt Martin and nothing else on a daily basis.
That's what I mean by getting especially bigger on the blue line. You got to protect that front of the net, the walls. Look, if you're going to try and be a containment type team, that means you got to keep the game off the walls. But if you're being a containment, you're in front of your own net, you got to be bigger. You got to make that choice. You got to have some skating guys on the blue line, no question about it, but you need some of that physical presence too.
Thanks a lot, Billy.
All right, bud.
Talk to you soon. Good luck. Have a good week. I was just thinking about it, talking to Billy about 13 months ago. Remember all the hoo-ha? And yeah, we played it up big here too. The response to the Penguins game, the 9-3 win, the fights, the brawling, the toughness, Mario Lemieux, Gart Snow's statements, everything else. And then you come back a year later, you look at the team that played for the Islanders this year, and it was Matt Martin, and it was Travis Hamonic, who can't do it alone, who's too young, who needs other guys to help him. He's too good a player, frankly. But Michael Haley, barely on the team. Everybody else, Konopka gone, Trevor Gillies not on the team, no replacement. So you have to wonder about what happened there, because all the hype of the ferocious Friday, as I called it, against the Penguins, it did turn out for this season to mean absolutely nothing. Thank you to Billy Jaffe and all our guests that are going to be coming up. Make sure you stay tuned to SNY Point Blank TV. Special thanks to Kevin Schultz and the crew for keeping Point Blank going so well this year. This is Chris Botta, SNY Point Blank TV. We'll see you next time.